We are back in the Pacific with the Imperial Japanese forces. They start off on turn number 1 in this original Pacific version with a surprise strike. Everything defends at 1. But they have been semi-successful so far. And I think that could be qualified by saying it's been utterly unsuccessful. They have managed to take out the American fleet outside of Pearl Harbor, but the ground attack failed badly. The attack into the Midway and Wake Islands failed as well. They even had problems getting into Solomon, New Britain, and Solomon was empty, and the Celebes. But we do have this Philippines island to get hold of. We're not going to shy away from that horse. We're going to get back on and start bashing things as fast as we can and try to get through all of this western side of the board as fast as we can. Now, here is the Philippines. The Americans have got some units on the mainland, and there's a part attack coming in from the Japanese mainland and another part attack coming in from the sea zones and air bases around there, with some guys coming in on transports, with some guys being transported on destroyers, as they can do in this version of the game. Let me get up on the battle board. Whilst I am doing that, I should mention that I make these videos in aid of a charity called Cure Parkinson's. You can guess what they're trying to do. If you happen to have a spare dollar, euro, yen, yak, or an IPC you could send to them, I'm sure that they would appreciate it. So, on this board now is the sea battle coming up. The 3 American units all defend at once, and the transports get defence in this game, which is nice. We have a battleship at 4. A fighter and a destroyer at 3 in this version, and we have a submarine without a surprise strike because the Americans have got a destroyer in there. So the first dice we're going to roll, the battleship, and while we're there, and the one submarine left for the Japanese can roll in at once. And they've got a hit as well. So that is just the Americans wiped out in one hit. Beautiful. Nicely done. Well done, you Japanese, this time round. American reply, they have 3 dice at once, and they get a hit too. Man alive, this is back to the previous video when the Americans were so hot with their ones. We are going to take that onto the submarine for the Japanese, and I shall tidy that up and get the ground battle in place. With the units removed to put on the battle board, you get a slightly better idea of the movements that was required to get these units in. These have come down from the main island and from Formosa. One of the, I think it was 2 planes beginning the game off in there, have come through here. Here's the transport from the main island and the destroyer which brought the extra unit in that's also on there now. Here is the battle on the board. We have 1 bombist from the main island. He's going to go in at a massive 4. Fighter at 3 and 3 infantry at once against the 3 American units all at once. So let's have a look at some dice rolls. We have a 4 and a 3. Do the air wing first. And we have 1 hit done. That's 1 of the Americans onto the casualty strip. And then we have 3 dice for 3 infantry that are Japanese. And they get a hit too. Well done, boys. So, America in reply, they will get 3 dice at once, and they got a hit. 1 guy goes down. Now, back to the start of the round again. Japan with 1 bomber and 1 fighter, black dice being the bomber. Get a hit, that's now the fighter, finished off, and in reply, 1 dice for America land, and they get a hit. How do they keep doing that? So, I'll shuffle that back on the board, and perhaps we'll look at the move into Hong Kong next. Into Hong Kong now. These 2 transport vessels have come down from the main island, bringing 1 tank and 1 infantry, 1 artillery for Japan, versus the 2 Brits that are hanging on for dear life there. So, 2 in there. 1 tank goes down here, and these 2 guys, infantry promoting artillery, get a bit of a boost now. The first time we used artillery, I think, for Japan in this game. Let's roll the tank in at 3 with that dice, and the infantry artillery 2s with the white dice. Let's see what we can get hold of. And the tank has scored a hit, so 1 of the British infantry is already lost. And their reply is 2 at 1. they get a hit. If you saw the last video, you'll know why I'm laughing so much. It's not funny. Let's roll in again for Japan. One tank at 3, one artillery at 2s. And they both hit. So that's the British out of there no matter what happens. And their reply, man alive. Okay, we were looking at the Malayan Peninsula sea battle first, I think. I tell a lie, we're going to take a little diversion. We have got this flagged up right from the start. This is already here on the board. We're taking one of these combat ships from this Sea Zone 45 through 44 on its way to the Malayan Peninsula for that attack. But being that it's gone into here, it will grab this convoy route and take the 3 IPCs away from the British Indian economy. So we might as well, whilst we're here, do this battle first to see if the IPCs can get taken back to Japan. You never know, they might be lucky. There is one fighter that's come off of Formosa. There are 2 infantry that have come through, I think from Hainan. And these 2 guys, or 1 guy from the Brits that's already there. Stick him on the board. We've got 1 at 3 first, plus 2 at 1. So 1 at 3 for the fighter, 2 at 1 for the 2 Japanese infantry. And they all miss. So one of the Brits at 1s, he misses as well. All good so far. The fighter now gets his hit. The Brits are out of there. Japan can't fail to invade Borneo. Can the Brits take 1 down on their way? No, they can't. So that is Borneo sorted out. I shall sort out the IPCs too and get back to you when the Malayan Peninsula sea battle is ready to go. So for the Navy battle, just on the northern peninsula of Malaya, we have 2 British units. One is a destroyer and one is a battleship. Drop those onto the board, but only in the 1 position because of the surprise strike. We have a carrier from Japan that goes in at 1. We have a battleship which goes in at 4. And we have 1 destroyer at 3 and 2 fighters. You might think it's overkill there, but we want to get into this region desperately. As you can see, if we succeed in that, we will also be taking the sea zone around Malaya. That will be affecting the IPCs that the UK can convoy, so they'll be down on money regardless of whether Japan is successful there or not. And they haven't been that successful so far throughout a lot of this game. Let's look at this on the battle board. This is the way it looks. It's pretty funky in my ideas. So we have the 1 battleship at 4, 2 fighters and a destroyer at 3. That may be enough. If not, we got a 1 shot from the carrier as well. There are 4 hits and the 3 threes hit. Well, it was over the top. Nothing succeeds like a toothless budgie, that's what I say. And we have 2 from the Brits in reply who both fail. Let me tidy that up on the board and get back to you with the Malayan ground attack that's going to be a lot weaker than that. We now have got just a bomber and a fighter and a couple of infantry going in there on foot versus 3 Brits on foot and 1 fighter. That could be a bit tougher prospect. As if by magic, that's all the units back into place. Here is the 3 British infantry and their 1 fighter going onto the battle board in the number 1 position. And we have 2 Japanese infantry coming off of this transport, which I believe came down from Hainan. I might be wrong with that. Either their positioning where they came from or even the pronunciation, which seems to vary quite a lot throughout this video so far. We also have a fighter and a bomber which did come out of French Indochina. That I do remember. Despite the fact I've got arrows pointing everywhere, I'm still confused with what I'm doing. But the UK-India economy now is down to 6 IPCs. They have been pretty much ravaged through this, and if Japan can grab these 4 IPCs from Malaya, it will put them up into that extra victory point mode. They're on 28 so far, so here's hoping that Japan do well for a change. So let's look at our heavy hits first. For Japan, they have a bomber at 4 and a fighter at 3. And they do one hit on the Brits. And of their 2 other units, they are both infantry. They've got no support from anything else. Trying to get 1s and they fail in that. The Brits have their 4 at 1 in reply. We're not going to give them white dice anymore because it's been too successful as white dice. And one of the black dice is against the Japanese as well. So we're down to 3 units each, but obviously the Japanese have the more powerful units in place now. So we have a bomber and a fighter. They're down to 2 units. Back to the white dice, come on. And they both fail this time, thank you. And back to the Japanese now. Didn't roll the Japanese infantry last time, did I? Bomber and a fighter for Japan. I must remember to do the infantry as well at the end. The bomber got another hit. That's done well this time round, lovely. And the 1 Japanese infantry, it doesn't get a hit. In reply now, 2 British dice. They both fail. So all that's left now on the battle board is the 1 British fighter, the Japanese bomber, the Japanese fighter, and a Japanese guy that we might have to roll in a minute. But nope, both of those units have now hit, so the Japanese infantry doesn't have to do anything about it, just the British fighter who doesn't get a hit. So that's finally a good bit of success for Japan. It has been tough going for them so far in this game, but things are starting to pay off now. Let me shuffle that through and look at the Chinese mainland attacks now proper. Mustn't forget to point out that whilst Japan do have Malaya right now, it's also the sea base that they've got. That naval base allows for faster movement. It's a good grab for them. That was one of their early intentions. I shall also point out while we're up here, not being too wobbly I hope, that this arrow is not trying to decide that one of these planes is flying right into here and back again. That's not happening. That's only there to say, and I think I forgot to point it out right at the start, one of Japan's ideas for this Japanese mainland was to try to run units around the top rather than trying to come through the middle, because it's going to draw Chinese troops back away rather than leaving the Chinese troops to put pressure on by just meeting like for like in a big block hole. It's going to be a northern advance through this Suiyan and perhaps through to Sengsai and through Shansai into Sikan, and even better pronunciations than that. So the first thing we're going to look at would be this Manchuria attack into Suiyan, and I'll get that on the board and sit myself down a bit more comfortably. Okay, the attackers into China go at full defensive rate, so the infantry are now up to 2 in defence, where they were 1 before, because the ongoing battle in China has been happening for the last 10 years, and there's no surprise here. So we have 1 tank at 3, 1 artillery at 2 boosting one of the infantry up, and 1 infantry at 1 versus the 2 at 2s. Let's roll the Japanese tank first at 3 and the 2 at 2s. So the 2 at 2s have scored 2 hits. It's job done. It's all over at Red Rover, apart from the Chinese defence. Oops, that one fell off the board. Doesn't count, and that one didn't hit anyway. So they are into Suiyan. And the last attack versus Anhui. We got a couple of Chinese guys there, if I can stretch and reach over. And we have 4 infantry, 1 artillery, and 1 fighter plane. I shall get that tidy on the board when I can reach. We haven't gone too heavy, as you may have seen, into the Chinese mainland, because I don't want to push too hard too soon and not have enough backup in supplies to hold these regions, which, I mean, especially with Shantung being worth 3 IPCs and Manchuria worth 2 IPCs, you don't want to leave a hole in there for China to come back and potentially pressurise their way back through. Similarly, we're not making any attacks here into the UK, other than some non-com moves to bring these tanks and artillery and shuffle these infantry around to get a nice balance of numbers here. It's not going to be invasions, though we could bash the Brits this time round. I don't want to leave too many holes behind. So this would be the last attack, I believe, unless I've missed any flags. This would be the last attack that Japan will be doing on this turn. So on the board in front of us, we have a fighter at 3. We have an artillery at 2 with an infantry at 2, and we have 3 guys at 1 versus these 2 Chinese guys, plucky souls, defending at 2s themselves. So we will get the 1 fighter and the 2 infantry. Let's see if we can repeat the last battle. And we can't. So that was a complete failure. And we have now the 3 Japanese infantry at 1s on their own, unsupported. And they all miss. 2 Chinese guys at 2s who score 2 hits. Oh, man alive, that's not good. Let me just get our chips right. That was a 3. It becomes a 1. Back in the air, we have one Japanese fighter and infantry artillery combination, a 3 and 2 at 2s. That one fell off the board. They will miss again. 1 at 1, no. And now the 2 defending China guys. Another hit. Man alive, I was concerned that this might happen, and it is happening. So we are left with the fighter and the 2 at 2s. Just the 1 hit off of that fighter. Well, we might get in there sometime this year. Let's do the 2 Chinese guys who scored 2 hits. Man alive, what is happening today? So we are left with 1 fighter. I'm loath to pull him back because it's a fighter versus 1 infantry. But it was a fighter and an infantry, or 4 infantry and artillery. If we don't succeed here, we could lose a very expensive piece. Fighters in this game cost 12 IPC. I'm going to pull back. I am going to go back, chicken, and run away from Anhui because we want to keep that fighter in good state. So with that turnip for the cooks, and that really was a turnip for the cooks, I am now going to reshuffle this board, get everything all pretty and tidy, make sure there's been no battle flags that I've missed, and I don't think there has been, and do the non-com moves into Siam, and whatever troop movements we can muster to try to reinforce this Chinese mainland, but with the limited success, as we started at the start of this video, meaning utter failures for Japan at the start of this game, we're going to have to get some units moving north, south, east and west, all over the place to try to just hang on to this, what we think, at my current count, is 32 IPCs and 3 victory points for them this round. Once I've done all that, I will get back to you with the United Kingdom, India, United Kingdom, Australian moves and combat. Okay, so I lied, but not actually on to the Allies go just yet. Bit of housekeeping to do beforehand. Japan are on 32 IPCs, giving them 3 victory points. I've had to adjust this down by 1. I believe that might have been when the Celebes were taken. I didn't move that down when moving Japan up, but I can't find anywhere else. I think that's correct. The British Indian is the one that suffered the most. They're down to 6 IPCs from their 15 starting price. That's quite a big change in the stock price there. Other things to mention, I think the non-com moves over here from that fleet. The two aircraft that were lost in the Hawaiian land battle, I'm not too bothered with that. I'm not too happy with it. I'm not too bothered with it. It does mean that they have been replaced by one of the planes that's come from the Marshall Islands. Get islands right. One from the Marianas battle got onto the Wake Island fleet now because they've moved back from Midway. Because whilst this carrier could move forward and its two planes could come in 1, 2, 3, have a bash at this fleet and back again, it would leave that one carrier here slightly vulnerable, as the Japanese have done, left this one destroyer hangar to dry rather in Midway. That's unfortunate. But whilst this B-17 from Hawaii and the B-17 from the States can get in and bash this Wake Island fleet, they don't have support really from a couple of fighters here. The 3 fighters, 2 on the mainland and 1 on the carrier, can't actually get into the Wake Island zone and find a safe landing space. The ones from the carrier, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's stuck there. The carrier's not going to come into here, and these fighters here can't land in Wake because there's no airport to give it that extra landing space. So this fleet is still vulnerable if the Americans want to attack it later on, but they're slightly safer being able to move that one space back because the 2 fighters from the land battle were destroyed. The 4 that went into the sea battle had survived, and they could fly back into Wake Island. That's why that's happened. The other things to mention, with the placement of units from the purchasing, they've obviously gone into the main island here, and we've managed to shuffle some units down from Shantung into Hong Kong to reinforce that. Having taken those 2 IPCs, we didn't want to start losing that to a little walkthrough because all there was 1 tank unit. And yeah, it's strong, but not strong enough. I think the tanks defend at 2 in this version. So a couple of infantry guys helped back them up. We've had to then obviously move units from the island back into Shantung, reducing the number that could go through to Manchuria. So it's slowing down that conveyor belt slightly. But apart from that, that's I think all we need to know. We would now be getting on with the purchases and movement for the British Indian, British Australian. That will happen in video number 3. Until next time, be cool.